So the question of the day is it your twin flame, your soulmate, or is it your nervous system? Okay, so this might seem like a super weird question, but it came out of an even weirder podcast I was listening to this morning. They were talking about whether or not your twin flame or soulmate, an idea that really everybody's known throughout the years, soulmate, that person that you're just meant to be with. And then later on now in kind of the spirituality consciousness circles, they're talking about a twin flame. So a person that is your mirror or your equal or you're meant to be with. Now, it doesn't always have to do with a love relationship. It could be friends or coworker, even somebody you're meant to do work with. But today I want to talk about the idea of a twin flame or soulmate being, someone that you're supposed to be in love with or spend your life with. This is super interesting because the podcast was saying the possibility was that maybe you're being influenced by outside influences like a bad Cupid or even aliens might be hooking people up and making them think they're a twin flame. Well, I don't know how I feel about that, but what I do know is that it's an interesting idea. What is happening when we believe someone is our soulmate or our twin flame? Is it true? Yeah, maybe. Or is it your nervous system? And why do I ask this? In the work we do with Cognomovement, and before that, other work, NLP and quantum touch, things like that, I would run into people whose lives were decimated for years because the person they thought were their twin flame or soulmate, it didn't work out in the long run. So the person might feel that, oh, there was a learning to be had there. And of course there is in every relationship, but they would start to make up things about this relationship, giving it huge importance in their life. And then having desperation, depression, and things like that really keep them from moving forward in a belief that this person was meant to be for them. And so then they can't figure out why it doesn't work out. So it got me to thinking about this idea, that initial hit that happens. We all know it. You see that person from across the room and it takes your breath away. And you couldn't even speak if they walked up to you. Something physical happens in your body. What is it? Have you ever had that relationship? Maybe if you've been married for 1,000 years, go back to high school and think about that relationship that when you met that person, you knew for certain they were the one and you were going to be with them forever and ever and ever. And maybe you were 12 and then it didn't work out. But there was something that made you feel that way, so incredibly attached to this person. And so because we have these grand, huge, real feelings, we believe that maybe this relationship might be divinely inspired. Now, if you have one of those relationships and it worked out amazingly and beautifully and wonderfully, then maybe that was the case. But if it burnt, crashed in flames, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just your nervous system. Now, stay with me on this, because if you've had one of these and you're suffering from it, you might find this interesting. So what does happen when we have that moment in time where we feel so attached to someone, almost desperate, almost life or death, where it almost feels like you're going to die if you don't have that person in your life? What's happening? What is happening is your body has turned on fight or flight and combined it with emotions, hormones, chemicals, and electricity that feels like love. But really, we'll call it infatuation in some cases, or obsession in other cases. But what I'm talking about is one of those relationships where Realistically, it's not that healthy. People give up other family members, maybe they're married and they have one of these physical experiences and they let go of their spouse. They ruin their finances. They leave and move to another part of the world, which leaves them hanging. So in this case, divinely orchestrated, probably not, unless the person who's divinely orchestrating is not very nice. More likely what it is the body has recognized something from the nervous system in the past, an injury that this person appears to be able to heal. So maybe it's that a person had very low self-esteem as a child, and this person really builds them up. And that feels like a match to heal the nervous system, something the nervous system is looking for. It also could be chemical. We've all heard that, right? We have the right chemistry. You meet somebody and like, oh, they're amazing, but maybe they're not even your type, right? Maybe, they're taller or shorter than you like. Maybe they're the wrong religion. Maybe they're everything wrong, but there's something about them. It's your nervous system, your body creating a match to their chemistry. We've said this again and again, 6 to 8 feet, we're in each other's field. So up to 16 feet or greater, we feel each other. We smell each other. We detect each other's hormones. So it's good to ask the question, what is this? Before you run headlong into destroying your life, or before you spend one more minute pining over someone from your past that you're just certain was your twin flame. Consider just for a moment, what did your body feel like? Did your heart race? Did you maybe sweat on the upper lip a little bit? Right? Did your ears ring? All symptoms of fight or flight, all symptoms of the body turning on that adrenaline response. So then think about somebody that the relationship may have started out hot, lots of people's do, and then mellowed into this cool, easy, working together, flowing together, creating together, building a life together. Notice how the two feel different. Notice if that one that you thought was your twin flame flamed out really fast, was hot and then flamed right out, or rocky, where there was a lot of arguing and fighting, but somehow because you had that initial hit of almost like heroin, you thought they were it. You fought for that relationship, even though in your logical mind, you knew it wasn't quite right. Even though maybe people told you it wasn't quite right. You fought for it because the body keeps trying to get back that hit. It really, I said heroin, but it really is like that. It's something that the body wants again and again, but it really is only a physiological response. And generally to some old thing in your nervous system or something that you recognize. So here's an interesting one, very subconscious. If you're a man and you run into a woman whose perfume smells like your mother's, if your mother was somebody you loved and adored, subconsciously, you may not realize it's the same scent, but that person will seem loving and warm and genuine to you. If you really dislike that perfume and your mom wore it, you will immediately have an adverse reaction to that person. It has nothing to do with the poor person, just their choice of perfume for the day. But your nervous system is making that decision. If a person looks similar to someone else from your past, someone you may not even remember, and it's somebody you had a warm feeling towards, you may be drawn to that person. That's your nervous system remembering and responding. Really, we don't know anything about that person, but we feel drawn, right? So start to consider this about the choices you've made in friends and especially in relationships that really had that initial first hit. And notice how they felt as they mellowed out into regular friendship, regular relationship, even love, or where they became really rocky or where they hit the wall. You'll notice that there's a distinct difference in how your nervous system feels. Some people will stay in those relationships or marriages decades looking for that hit of adrenaline again, looking for that hit of morphine in the body to recreate that feeling because they're so sure that it must be something if you had that sensation. I think it would really help us all to have this idea that our nervous systems are driving a whole heck of a lot of what we do. And sometimes it leads us in a really nasty direction, staying in a relationship that's no good, or believing that one that didn't work out was the one, so we never move forward. In our daily relationships, husbands and wives, boyfriends and girlfriends, good friends, relationships with family and parents, we can look for this too. Where are we having knee-jerk reactions? Where are we all of a sudden having a strong feeling about something that maybe isn't that big of a deal? I was talking to somebody today who was really having a lot of anxiety about someone that they're working with not returning their email in time. And they said it felt like life or death. Now, to most of us, we would think, person's probably busy. But in their body, it was going back to a time when they didn't get the attention that they needed from a parent, having no idea that now this anxiety was being created by an email really wasn't about the email. It was about some time in the past when they didn't quite get what they needed. So we have these intense reactions. When they don't necessarily seem logical, we now have the tool of Cognomovement, where you can go in and just make an adjustment to that neurological pathway. And you can go back and do this on relationships that you're still suffering about from years ago. That relationship that you're suffering about still is in your nervous system and it's drawing you backwards, not allowing you to propel forwards into brand new, beautiful relationships. You can clear that now. You can just delete it from your nervous system. The same with things like getting overly frustrated about, someone not returning an email, flipping out over someone not doing the dishes, seeing a sock on the floor and wanting to kill people. Maybe that's just me. But where you find yourself on autopilot, anywhere in a relationship, where emotions seem much bigger than they should be or could be, or are resourceful, you can simply change it. Now, if you're not a Cognomovement user and you don't have Cognomovement, I would suggest you get it. But if you don't, there are some things you can do. One thing is when you have that initial hit, and you're like, man, this means something huge to me. Take a step backwards, one step in the opposite direction backwards. It's not something your body expects you to do. Take a big deep breath and let it out through your mouth. And then let your eyes drift gently upwards and put your finger on your chin, kind of creating a closed circuit in that thinker's pose. And breathe again. And take one more step backwards. And then look again at the situation. What did we do? We told the nervous system to calm down. Why? We took a big deep breath. It turns down that autonomic system that goes into a little bit of fight or flight. We walked backwards, which the body doesn't expect to do. We're unraveling pattern. And we moved our eyes into idea and inspiration while closing a circuit. So now the nervous system says, wait a minute, there is no lion on our butt. And also we haven't just necessarily met the love of our life that we need to pounce on right this second. Something to know is that people will feel our energy as well. A calmer, more open, more caring, more interested, energy is more drawing anyway. Sometimes that big hit of morphine kind of feels great to us, but it can chase someone else off. And it can actually push away a relationship that might be really the one that you're meant to have for your lifetime. And it'll also prevent you from getting into one that really isn't the right one. It just had a big emotional hit. So consider these things. Respond to this video if you're seeing it on video, respond to this email if you're getting in an email, and tell me what you think about this. Is it your twin flame? Or could it be, is it just possible that it's your nervous system? Now, again, remember, guys, I'm not talking about those people who had love at first sight and were married for 40 years. I'm really talking about those situations that didn't work out so well. Tell me what you think, and we'll talk again really soon.